what you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who was trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that. You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that. It's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers.
The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement.
I haven't seen one ICE officer found guilty of anything inappropriate. I have not seen ICE act outside of policy. And if they are acting outside of policy, I'm not aware of it.
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground. This individual, as you saw in the video that we released just 48 hours after this incident, showed that this officer was hit by her vehicle, she weaponized it, and he defended his life and those colleagues around him and the public.
She was a agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high-level agitator, so professional.
When it comes to an unarmed civilian, was it really the appropriate moral response for her to be shot?
Well, if you see the tape and you look into the details of that, that unarmed civilian weaponized a motor vehicle and tried to run over an officer who serves in the Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement Agency of the country. And he made a split-second decision, and it looks to me to have been an act of self-defense. He was defending himself.
The Trump administration and President Trump is the most transparent and open government that we've ever had. Give the public the information, give them what they need to know about a situation so they can have the truth as soon as possible.
She behaved horribly, and then she ran him over. The one woman in the car before she got shot, I heard, was unbelievably badly behaved.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face.
Okay, welcome to Chapter 2, Empirical Evidence of Premeditated Use of Deadly Force and the Criminal System Defending It. Now, obviously this is where this entire video book started. This was the root. This original 10-minute video that I was planning on making back in January is what turned into this entire video book. And it's all because of, as I said, the reaction that I was getting to my posts on Facebook about what I saw is the truth about the Renee Good shooting. And that's what we're going to cover in Chapter 2 here. Because what this does is it ties in everything that we've learned so far about propaganda, about creating the habits and opinions of the masses and what the official narrative is and what the establishment is telling you to believe, as opposed to what your own eyes are seeing is the actual truth. And so we're going to look at all different angles of this. You know, obviously it started out as this. This was the thumbnail that I made on probably January 12th for this video before I started delaying it and adding to it until it became a video book. But so yeah, empirical evidence. And that's what we have to do, because I ended up moving a couple of the chapters around, as you'll see moving forward. I brought Chapter 5 up to Chapter 3 now, and I moved Chapter 3 back to Chapter 5, because what I talk about in Chapter 3 now, which is the restoration of critical thinking to destroy hive mind and groupthink mentality, needs to be addressed sooner rather than later, because a lot of the things I'm going to be talking about are going to be revealed in Chapter 3. But finding the flow for this book, each chapter builds upon the previous. And so far, we've shown you the true reality of our world as told to you by Edward Bernays, by all these entities that are truly running the world in their own work. They literally told you that they're running and controlling the world, and they're manipulating your opinions and your beliefs through their propaganda, through their media, through their schooling. It's all being done. And again, that's why we live in the world that we live in, is because people have beliefs that they were programmed to believe. They don't have knowledge. Knowledge and belief are two separate things. Knowledge is something that you have gone out and sought, and you have challenged, and you have looked for the evidence, the empirical evidence, as we're going to talk about here, to see if the rhetoric that you're being told is true or false. Okay, and that's where we're going to start in this chapter here, building upon shattering those false beliefs that we talked about in chapter 1. Okay, because essentially we do live in a false reality. You know, we're told that we live in a democratic republic, when in fact we do live in a de facto fascist plutocracy by every definition of the word. And I proved that in chapter 1. So what we're going to do in this chapter, obviously this is where it started. This is where it expanded to the whole truth about the Renee Good shooting. Nobody is talking about, and how we peacefully end this insanity. And it's what I came across in the first couple of days of the shooting and dealing with all the negativity on Facebook, that I actually found the empirical evidence which proves premeditated use of deadly force. Very few people were talking about it at the time, and I've only seen maybe 3 people actually talk about it in videos, and it quickly got swept under the rug. So again, that's what we're going to talk about here in this video. But anyway, this one is broken down into 8 separate parts, and I'm just going to bring them up one at a time. We'll get to each part as we get to them. But this chapter is primarily all video and PDF files. I know what people use PDF file for these days, but these are actual PDF file articles that we're going to be going over, the highlighted articles, to show how we got to this point. But anyway, so this is mostly video, very little slideshow in this chapter here. And again, that's why I made this a video book, because I need to show you video content and these articles so that you can actually see how everything has come together. All right, because once you have the evidence, then the conclusion makes perfect sense. So we're going to start right here. The first part, the official narrative and alternative right-wing propaganda. And as you saw from that opening montage, we saw the official narrative propaganda from the establishment and from the media. And obviously a lot in the mainstream media challenge the official narrative, but we're going to take a look at 2 prominent alternative right-wing talking heads, I guess you could say, and see how they're basically their own dumb nodes attached to the right-wing Hive Mind mainframe, regurgitating what they're being told into their dumb node followers. So this is how it all works on the Hive Mind network. You know, we have repeaters, but at the end of the day, everybody's just believing what the people who created the lie said in the beginning. That's how our world works. If there's so little critical thinking going on and people actually saying, that doesn't seem right to me based upon what my eyes see, right? And what I'm being told. But some people just are blind and they can't see. They just believe what they're being told because that's the hive mind that they've chosen to plug into. So we're going to cover primarily a couple clips here from Tim Fool and Benny Johnson, 2 prominent right-wing talking heads. And just to show you here real quick, you know, these are Tim Fool's YouTube channels. He's got 2.72 million subscribers on Timcast IRL, which is tragic. And he makes, I don't know, millions of dollars a year spewing his lies. And then we've got Timcast with 2.03 million and Tim Pool with 1.47. So he has a large following and he has influence in that hive mind. That's why we're going to cover what he's actually saying. And then we've got Benny Johnson down here, who has spoken at the White House and is part of the establishment. And I believe he's even flown on Air Force One or Air Force Two. So again, he's connected, but we're going to see just how egregious a liar he is as well. And he's got over 6 million subscribers just on YouTube alone. So again, his following is pretty massive. And this is all part of that MAGA cult, that MAGA hive mind cult that believes everything that they're being told by the hive mind mainframe because they believe Trump is their savior. Okay, which he's not. We've already proven that. We've already shown you in chapter 1 exactly what his purpose is. And that's to usher in the technocratic, one world, socialist, and totalitarian state. Right? That's the purpose of Trump. And he's got his whole entire right wing deceived. Because again, they're using Agenda 21 to implement their plans. And now that Trump's in, everyone fighting Agenda 21 doesn't even realize that that's what's actually happening. All right? We've already covered that. If you're just watching this video, go back and check out Chapter 1 because I explain all of this. Anyway, so let's go take a look at the videos. And we're going to start with a couple of clips from the Tim Toole show, Timcast IRL. And we'll start right here. Well, first of all, let's just start right off the bat. The culture war with Tim Pool. He's already creating the divide. He's saying it's a culture war. There's two sides. I've chosen one side, and I'm going to show you this side's perspective. And I'm going to demonize the other side. He's not talking about unity. He's not talking about solving problems at all. He is part of the problem. He'll never admit it because he's a complete narcissist. And again, when he says things, people believe it because he says them. And that's how we get these hive mind mentalities, these groupthink mentalities, is people like this. So let's just go over this video.
We've done an analysis on this video 1,000,001 times right now. There's a few things to break down.
All right, you've done an analysis 1,000,001 times, and 1,000,001 times you haven't added any value to society because all you're doing is lying about it. So.
Liberals have argued the vehicle did not aim at him. In fact, the officer stepped in front of the vehicle, and they've asked, why did he step in front of a vehicle?
Okay, I'm going to show you why he stepped in front of the vehicle as we move forward. But he said it got cut out, but the New York Times and liberals. Okay, so already again, he's creating the divide between the liberals and the conservatives, right? We, the conservatives, are right. The liberals are wrong because of reasons that he's going to give, right?
However, people on the right have argued the vehicle reverses and lines up with him. Actually, I think it's fair to say both are occurring. Now,
no, both are not occurring, Tim, because what's happening here is Renee has assessed the situation. She's just had a guy circle her car. She's had two goons in masks come out and start yelling at her, reach into her car, try and open the door, and she just simply says, you know what? I don't want any part of this. I just want to leave. And so she backs her car up and her wheels are turned because that's what you do when you want to back up and turn your car to go down the road. Okay, that's all she's doing here. She wasn't backing up to ram her car into Johnathan Ross like the official narrative has told us. But let's hear what Timmy has to say.
Most important part. As we move forward, we can see, watch the wheels tilted to the left, not to the right. And you can...
Yeah, they're tilted to the left because she's turning her car, Tim.
And then see the wheel spin out. See the wheel spinning out? Mm-hmm. Yes. That is acceleration into the officer.
No, it's not. That's her in the middle of, January, icy, slick roads, her putting a little bit of pressure on the gas to get some traction to turn her wheel, and that's all that's happening here. And here's what you need to understand. This whole interaction, from the time that Johnathan Ross got out of his truck, began filming, to the time that that third bullet went through her head, was 37 seconds. Okay? And what he does is he slows everything down to microseconds, and he says, so he's creating this perception in his mind of what she's doing, which completely refutes the reality because the whole thing was 37 seconds, right? But from the time that the goons got out of their pickup truck to the time that the third bullet was in her head was literally 7 seconds. From the time they got out of the car, started screaming at her, got to her window, tried to open her door, to the time that Johnathan Ross fired all 3 rounds was 7 seconds. So he's saying that she's making these decisions and he's acting on what he heard her engine do, her engine revving and everything. No. And I'm going to prove to you moving forward from his own video the moment that he decided that he was going to shoot this woman. So again, he's just creating this false narrative because of the hive mind reality he's been told to regurgitate. Essentially, that's what it is.
Aimed at him, spins out, which means he heard the engine go boom. He then pulls his gun. The vehicle right now, you can see the wheel is beginning to tilt, is still going forward.
Yes.
He then points the gun at her and steps to his right.
He still hasn't turned.
Again, this is all literally a quarter of a second that we just watched. In real life situation, in real time situation, he's extrapolating this as though it's justification for murder, right? I mean, he's taking these little small tiny increments of someone who clearly in real time was simply backing her car up. That's why the wheel was turned, because you got to get the car turned this way if you want to, turn the wheel back and pull out. She was backing her car up because she didn't want to hit him. That's why she backed her car up, because he was standing in front of her car. She purposely backed it up and turned the wheel to turn it to get out of his way because she did not want to hit him. That's the truth. But Tim Fool here is going to lie to your face and gaslight you into hoping you believe that she was trying to ram him and run him over. And that's what the right-wing media has told you to believe.
And now she's turning. Right? This is the point. The gun is aimed at her. The vehicle begins its turn.
Oh, now she's only turning because the gun is pointed at her. No, she was turning because that was her intention the whole time. Do you see how he's lying to you? Do you see how he's building a story based on microseconds of video frames? I mean, this guy is so disgusting.
So you can see the officer's leg right here. Watch his feet slide. His feet slide, okay? He's not taking a step. He's sliding backwards. That's
because he purposely put himself into the car. It's not because the car hit him. It's because he purposely put himself there. I'm going to show you why.
Because the vehicle is pressing on him. The vehicle has made contact with his body. He is now being pushed back, and once that happens, he fires the first shot. The vehicle then continues a rightward turn. I believe that indicates she is actively conscious. Otherwise, it would have gone straight. It's the two...
Again, he's just making this shit up because she was already turning. She was already going that way. This was literally a half a second that he says she's making these decisions and, oh, now I'm going to turn because I just got shot. Just shut up, dude. You're such a disgusting liar.
Subsequent shots after the fact,
right?
Which is...
Right, he's clear right here. He's already clear. He doesn't need to shoot. But he does because he's a sociopath.
More problematic.
Which are more problematic, where she dies. She is actively turning right now. Presumably the first shot did not kill her. It's the other shots that
where do you see the other two shots?
In a standard legal context, outside of anything we know about ICE or Stop ICE or whatever's going on, if there is an agent, for officer or agent, for any reason in front of a vehicle, did she act in such a way that he was legally justified in shooting her?
All right, this is actually a separate clip. So that first one was them breaking down, the shooting and his perception and his, again, regurgitation of the official narrative. It was all lies, as I just explained. And now he's talking to a lawyer, and this is your legal system. And we're going to talk about that in chapter 4. And again, that's why I made this video book, because everybody was talking about legal and, oh, he was justified in doing this when he wasn't. You're never justified in taking someone else's life unless they are trying to take yours. And she was not trying to do that at all. So let's hear what this idiot lawyer has to say.
He would have been legally justified if he wasn't an officer. If you or I were in front of our vehicle and she engaged in the same conduct, we would also have a reasonable perception that she was presenting as an imminent threat of deadly unlawful force, and we could use deadly force to defend ourselves from...
No, that's not true. He's lying. Again, they're both lying to you. Okay, and I'm going to show you, based on their own documents, that he had no justification whatsoever to unholster his weapon or fire it at all. And I'm going to show you.
That car attack, that apparent car attack. That doesn't matter.
There you go, apparent.
Matter whether she was actually trying to attack him with the car. All that matters is, did he have a reasonable perception that he was being attacked with the vehicle? And that's incontestably true. Anybody...
No, it's not incontestably true. It's incontestably false. But this is how these liars, operate, right?
tires spin up, the car lunges forward, you're in front of the car, she sees you, she's looking right at you.
Yeah.
Anybody would feel that they were being threatened by that vehicle.
And the left omits that the tires are pointed slightly to the left when they first spin out on the ice.
No, the left doesn't admit that, because the left is actually right on this particular instance. Because as everybody can see, like I said, when you pull it full time, here's a lady backing out because she didn't want to hit him so that she could turn her wheel and get out of the situation. She's like, okay, now I'm being attacked. I don't want to be here anymore. That's what she was doing. She was simply leaving. She had committed no crimes. She had done nothing of the sort. She was like, you know what? These guys are a little crazy now. I just want to get out of here. And she had every right to do so. And they had no right to kill her or to force themselves on her into her vehicle. She's like, I'm leaving. I'm going to show you in the next video. She told them she's leaving.
I don't even know if the officer could see the...
He can't.
Right, probably.
But that shows the intention of Renee Good as the driver. I would argue that I don't think she was trying to kill him, but she had reckless disregard for his well-being.
No, she didn't. Again, another lie.
In her attempt to escape. The wheels are tilted slightly left, and they spin out quickly on the ice, indicating she accelerates.
He's just doing this to convince himself that he's right. Because, he did it 1,000,001 times. And that's all he's doing here. He's just like literally convincing himself and gaslighting the public. He's literally gaslighting himself. Because you can see it in real time. I mean, if he cared about the truth, he would admit that he's wrong. But he can't do that because he's just completely driven by his ego.
What that means is Johnathan Ross heard the acceleration.
For sure.
He sees...
How can you hear something? It took literally a couple of seconds. Right? And again, I'm going to show you. He already had made the decision that he was going to shoot this woman.
It's a vehicle. He can't see the tires, and he hears the engine rev.
Yep.
So he goes for his gun.
Yep.
But the question that
another lie
people bring up is the first shot goes to the windshield, but that's likely not the shot that killed her.
Well, of course it wasn't. And had he just left it at that and not fired the other two shots, she still would be alive. Because the first bullet was treatable. It was the third shot right into her skull that killed her.
According to the autopsy report, it was a bullet, I believe, to the side of her head, indicating that it was the two shots through the side of the window. Does that mean anything legally?
Not particularly. There's
Not particularly. See, this is, again, another shithouse lawyer trying to... Again, this is all legalese. This is all the BS that they use to protect themselves because they know they're criminals. They know they did wrong. But we're going to use our legal justification. And we're going to talk about it in Chapter 4.
Two rationales for justification for those two shots. One is there's a reaction time that occurs in self-defense. Before you start using force in self-defense, you have to perceive the threat, you have to evaluate it, you have to make a decision. I want to defend myself. You present your gun, you press a trigger. All that takes time.
Yeah, it takes literally 2 seconds? No. Because again, I'm going to show you that he made up his mind 10 seconds before he shot her. I'm going to prove that to you.
It also takes time to stop using force. And the law recognizes this. When it's a...
No, because Yosemite Sam. I'm just going to keep on firing because I'm a sociopath. That's what is you justifying this? He's literally justifying. He's victim blaming here. It's disgusting. These people are absolutely disgusting human beings.
It's really one use of force event. There's a slight delay in starting and there's a slight delay in ending. But another justification is he's privileged to use deadly force to defend not just himself, but any other innocent person.
No, he's not privileged to do that. Now, again, I'm going to show you. He's not privileged to do that. Both Tim Pool and his little lawyer friend are lying to you.
As a fleeing felon, a dangerous fleeing felon, you're allowed to use deadly force to keep a dangerous fleeing felon from departing the scene.
No, you're not. And she was not a dangerous fleeing felon. And again, he just labeled her as something that she wasn't. She posed no danger. She didn't have a weapon. She was not firing. She was sitting there in a car with her dog in the back seat and her wife trying to get back in the car. Once she saw that she was trying to leave, she just backed off to let her get out of the situation because she saw that the aggression was coming at her. This is aggression, and aggression is a violation of natural law. She had done nothing wrong. She wasn't attacking them. She wasn't doing anything to them. But again, they felt privileged, he used that word privileged, to do whatever they wanted to her because they have immunity. And we're going to talk about that in this chapter too. Now let's see what good old Benny Johnson has to say about this.
Today, ICE officers in Minneapolis were conducting a targeted operation when rioters began blocking ICE officers, and one of these violent rioters weaponized her vehicle.
There you go. Homeland Security and their inflammatory rhetoric. They called her a violent rioter, weaponizing her vehicle. She did no such thing. She wasn't violent, and she did not weaponize her vehicle. So there's two lies right there from your Department of Homeland Security, from your government, because that's all they do is lie.
Attempting to run over our law enforcement officer, and
she was not attempting to run over your law enforcement officer. She was trying to just simply leave the situation.
Domestic terrorism. True.
All right. In an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. And he says, true. No, she was not trying to kill him. It was not an act of domestic terrorism. So again, how many lies? 4 lies right there. She wasn't a violent protester. She didn't weaponize her vehicle. She was not attempting to run over. She was not trying to kill him. And it wasn't an act of domestic terrorism. 5 lies right there in the first, 3 seconds of this video clip. That's how bad it is out there. And again, nobody ever questions. Nobody ever hears this and says, that doesn't sound right. That's not what my eyes saw. It's just they accept the programming because they don't have the antivirus program installed that we're going to talk about now in chapter 3. Because, again, I had to move it up because it's so important to understand the rest of the book. But again, another egregious liar from the right wing talking headspace.
An ICE officer, fearing for his life and the lives of his fellow enforcement and the safety of the public, fired defensive shots. He used his training and saved his own life, and that...
Yeah, he used his training, and we're going to show you exactly what his training was and why he did exactly what he did. I'm going to show you how they keep invoking his training as why he did what he did and why he was justified to do what he did. And I'm going to show you it's all a lie.
His fellow officer, the alleged perpetrator, was hit, and his deceased, the ICE officers, were hurt, but expect to make a full recovery.
No, he wasn't hurt. He was not hurt at all. And that whole story was another lie, that he had these deep bruises. Oh, no, he didn't. There was no damage to Johnathan Ross whatsoever. He walked away. He wasn't limping or anything. He called her names, and God, these people are just so disgusting. But let's continue.
Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, have constantly demonized ICE, and now one of their activists tried to kill an ICE agent with her car.
Again, another lie. And the demonization of ICE is very well 100% justified. Not that I agree with everything that Tim Walz has ever said, or even the mayor of Minneapolis, but they're 100% right on this. And we proved in chapter 1 that we don't even need ICE on the streets. If anybody commits a crime in this country, that's what local law enforcement is for. We don't need masked ICE goons, mercenaries, roaming our streets, plucking people from their homes or their cars because they're just trying to make a living. And they're adding, again, over the last 30 years, $14.2 or $7 trillion of positive GDP to our economy. That's already been proven in chapter 1 with the Cato Institute report. So again, everything's a lie. All they're doing is lying to you. And Benny Johnson is one of the worst out there.
Let me break down this video. Here's a woman who's being told by federal...
He's going to break down the video for you and tell you the truth. Gaslight you when you can clearly see the truth with your own eyes.
She was making threats on federal officers and impeding their actions.
She was not making any threats on any federal officers. She was not impeding their actions. And the only thing that I would disagree with what she did was pulling her car sideways in the middle of the roadway. Even though she wasn't impeding traffic, she was waving people around, as you'll clearly see in an upcoming video. She was just there as part of a group trying to warn her neighbors that these mercenaries are here to take you from your home. You may want to hide. That's why they had the whistles, and that's why they were trying to slow them down, right? I find nothing wrong with that, because the people in the wrong here are ICE, 100% in the wrong. The government's 100% in the wrong. And we're going to show you why in chapter 4.
Official duties. They told her to get out of the vehicle, and instead she punched the gas and nearly ran one of them over.
Punched the gas. No, she didn't. She slowly pulled away. Because again, this is all a matter of seconds that we're looking at here.
It's clear what happened.
And you're going to see in the next video that I'm going to show you, that was the original. And you're going to see what the one that they were putting out to the public was a sped up version to make it look like she was moving a lot faster than she actually was. Again, more part of the propaganda and more part of the deception.
Happened here, and one of the officers fired defensive shots at this domestic terrorist, a left-wing woman, and she was killed.
Domestic terrorist, left-wing woman, fired defensive shots, all lies. Those shots were 100% offensive. Again, I'm going to show you why.
So let me just break this down. Democrats are the insurrectionists. They are the ones who are fighting and attacking federal agents just trying to do their job.
It's called the First Amendment. It's called the freedom of speech. It's called, we don't like what the government's doing here, and we're going to voice our opinions. And we're going to warn our neighbors about what's happening. Again, this is the mind virus of statism and left-right politics. And this guy is just another sycophantic mouthpiece for statist ideology. He thinks he has this moral superiority, when in fact, what he's doing is exactly what he blames the left of all the time, which is moral relativism. It's okay when we do it, but when you do it, it's wrong. And that's the epitome of what this disgusting piece of trash, Benny Johnson, really is.
They are defending terrorists who are doing the exact same thing. It's never been more clear which side is the side of the American people, which side is on the side of law and order, and which side is literally siding with the terrorists.
Again, just calling people terrorists who are just exercising their First Amendment rights. They weren't brandishing weapons like the right was on January 6th at the Capitol or any other protest where they're protesting the left-wing propaganda or left-wing ideology where they're all brandishing weapons, right? Again, it's moral relativism. When his side does it, it's okay because his side is never wrong. Of course, you can never be wrong if you're a conservative or right-wing. You're only wrong if you're left-wing or a Democrat. And again, if you know me, I'm neither. I completely reject the false left-right dichotomy, and I'm going to show you a superior social order which abolishes that whole left-right division. Because unity is the only thing that's going to save this country at this point. And we have to drop those labels. But this is another guy that's creating more division and fomenting ultimately a civil war if we the people don't realize what's being done to us and unite and walk away from morons like this.
People who want to kill police officers and federal agents. So watch what happens next. Pray for our federal officers.
And it's time for the press to finally tell the truth about what is going on, says J.D. Vance in sharing this clip.
No, I think it's probably about time for the government to tell us the truth, but we know that's never going to happen. It's about time for Benny Johnson to tell us the truth, but we know that's never going to happen. So we're just here to analyze what they're saying and call out their BS.
J.D. Vance also posting in the sharing of this clip. What the press has done in lying about this innocent law enforcement officer is disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself.
Again, lies, propaganda, gaslighting. Wow.
Look at what the press did. ICE agent was not in the vehicle's path. when fired at driver. Video shows. And
Yeah, he wasn't. And again, I'm going to show you why he positioned himself where he did on purpose, because that's what he was trained to do. And you're going to see, it's like the evidence is overwhelmingly damaging, and it's empirical evidence. I mean, it's not speculation at all. So you're going to see exactly, that's why I started with this, so you can see just how bad the propaganda is to manipulate the mind of the masses, right? Because that's what propaganda is all about.
analysis of the video raises questions. These bastards.
These bastards. Oh, you're so cool. You're so edgy, Benny Johnson.
They want people to die. Renee Good was staring directly at the ICE agent when she...
Now look at it. They took a screenshot and they said, oh, look at that face. She's so angry and mad. You know, again, this is how disingenuous and just how egregious of liars they are. She's literally, her face was grimacing because she was turning her wheel to get out of his way, to just simply pull away and get out of the situation. That's all that was happening.
She floored the gas pedal to kill him. Look at...
Oh, zoom in on her face. Okay, Benny. Oh, let's get them to believe me.
this. She looks right at him before trying to run him over. If you're still out there marching in the street for this woman, you are an idiot. She is a murderer.
Wow. The one who was murdered is now the murderer. If this is not the epitome of victim blaming, what the effing hell is going on in this world? This is why we can't have nice things. It's because of this just dogmatic belief that your side is infallible and what you're actually seeing isn't what you're actually seeing. So you're going to create another narrative and push it out there to the people so that they believe the lies. And this is what happens with everything. Everything in our world that most people believe is a lie because of the hierarchy, because of the way the system works, which is why we need a new system. Okay? So that people aren't lied to anymore. God, this just disgusts me. He is as disgusted as he is, his faux disgust with the left wing because, you know, he has to play it up. That's literally how disgusted I am with this piece of trash here.
He owes a J.D. Vance an apology, starting with CNN. Video proves that he was right and that they were full of shit as usual. Yep.
Now, I'm going to show you what the video proves in a second here. And we're going to show you what another rational mind says about the video, too. Here's one more clip I added about Benny Johnson because it's just too funny. And it just goes to show who this troll, this right-wing troll, truly is.
Before he was getting literally 1 billion views online, Benny worked at storied news outlets like Breitbart, The Blaze, and BuzzFeed, where he honed a unique perspective that was definitely authentic and original.
BuzzFeed announced it was firing its viral politics editor Benny Johnson for plagiarism.
Johnson wholesale copied words and entire phrases from The Guardian, U.S. News and World Report, and even Yahoo Answers.
Wow! So, what did I say in Chapter 1 when I talked about Hive Mind and dumb nodes? What did I call them? I called them plagiarists, pretenders, posers, and parrots. And that's all Benny Johnson is. But he's got millions of followers, billions of views, and that's it. I mean, he was fired for being a plagiarist. That's who he is. And he got busted.
How bad of a writer do you have to be to cheat on a BuzzFeed article with Yahoo Answers? Benny's
that was priceless.
Now free to talk politics. Give us a taste.
Every single thing you hate about your life right now, or American culture, is caused by mass immigration.
American cities are treasures, and we should not sacrifice them to the mongoloid horde.
White rage is how you win a war.
Leftists are a death cult. Save this country from literal demons, from Satanists, and from scum.
Tell me that man is not just pure evil with that vitriolic rhetoric he just spewed. I mean, and again, he maintains this moral high ground because he's right wing, because he's conservative, because he's a Christian, right? What? Wow. And again, he has all these millions of followers who just hang on his every word. That's why the world is so messed up right now. And again, don't get me wrong. It's just as bad on the left side. Okay? Especially during COVID. Right? The left was just as bad as this during COVID. So, again, I'm going to call out all BS, no matter who's saying it, no matter what side you choose in the political spectrum, because as we see at the bottom here, truth is all that matters. That's the model for my business. It's one of the ideologies that drives my entire life. Truth is all that matters. Because again, anything done outside of objective truth is a violation of natural law. And either yourself, someone else, or an entire society is going to suffer the consequences of violating natural law because you're not aligned with truth.
Maybe we were too hard on plagiarism, Regardless, Benny's constant stream of vitriol and cruelty has reaped him billions of views. And frankly, it blows my mind that someone this unoriginal and derivative can garner such online attention and the ear of the president. I mean...
Exactly. He's been in the White House. So again, this is the MAGA cult. And, this is coming from someone who was a lifelong Republican, who grew up in Ripon, Wisconsin, the birthplace of the Republican Party, who always voted either Republican or independent, because for a long time, I never bought into the system. I knew that both sides were bad for a long time, and I voted third party for probably 2 decades just to voice my dissent against the entire system. But I did vote for Trump in 2016 because I thought maybe he is the outsider that America's been looking for. And he's clearly shown us his true colors by now. So, no, I don't support Trump. I don't support any of the right wing. I don't support any of the left wing. They're all liars. Okay, so now that we've seen that part of the story, let's go and look at who Johnathan Ross is and how he was trained to do the things that he did. So, let's start right here with this article from NPRnews.org. Johnathan Ross has served decades in military and law enforcement. January 9th, 2026, 2 days after the shooting. Noam and other Trump administration officials have defended the agent as an experienced law enforcement professional who followed his training and shot Good after he believed she was trying to run him over or other agents over with her vehicle. What was he doing again, Christy?
This is an experienced officer who followed his training.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's right. The FBI is investigating the use of deadly force. Okay? So again, we've already established that the right-wing alternative media is lying to you and perpetuating this myth, but we're going to show you exactly what she was doing. Okay, Johnathan Ross. Ross said he was deployed to Iraq from 2004 to 2005 with the Indiana National Guard. Ross said he served as a machine gunner on a gun truck as part of a combat patrol team. Now let's stop there real quick, because as many of you know, there has been a rash, an epidemic of veteran suicides in this country because of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And it's all because these are people who can't live with what they did. They knew they were wrong. They knew that they had done just heinous things at the command of their government. And I think that's tragic. All war is tragic. There should be no war in a sane world. Because as you'll see in the model that I'm going to show you, there would never ever be any war. But because of the system we live in, all wars are created for profit and for depopulation and for control of natural resources. So the point I'm getting to here is the people with PTSD who can't handle living with their guilt any longer, who take their lives, are truly empathic people. They got themselves into a situation they didn't realize, and now they have deep regret. And when they can't live with it anymore, they end their lives. And I think it's tragic. Again, here's a guy who was a machine gunner on a gun truck in a war zone, who doesn't seem to have PTSD at all, who seems to actually relish in killing people, in imposing his will and force on other people. And people like that are labeled as sociopathic or psychopathic. And I think that's exactly what we can classify Johnathan Ross as after we look at all the evidence. So here's someone who came out of the military and got into law enforcement so we could continue imposing his will on other people. Because those are the kind of people that do get into law enforcement. Very few of them get into law enforcement because they actually care about protecting people. That's just the reality of a statist type of society. He said he returned from Iraq in 2005, went to college, and joined the Border Patrol in 2007 near El Paso, Texas. He worked there until 2015. Okay, so now we have him in El Paso, Texas with the Customs and Border Patrol from 2007 to 2015. So 8 years, that's where he was there. All right, serving as a field intelligence agent, gathering and analyzing information on cartels and drug and human smuggling. Ross said that he was also a firearms instructor, an active shooter instructor, a field intelligence officer, and a member of the SWAT team. He said that he attended the Border Patrol's Academy in New Mexico. So he was trained, again, by Border Patrol in their academy. And we're going to see what he was trained to do. Now, to finish this up, Vice President J.D. Vance praised the agent's service to the country Thursday without naming him, said ICE officer deserves a debt of gratitude for murdering someone. Thank you, Vice President Vance. This is a guy who's actually done a very, very important job for the United States of America. No, he actually hasn't. Because again, we've proven that ICE doesn't even need to exist. Because immigrants are not a problem. It's the establishment, it's the system that's created the problem to bring about their solution, which we'll talk about later in this chapter. He's been assaulted. He's been attacked. Oh, poor thing. He's been injured because of it. Well, yeah, because when you go out and impose your will on people and they don't want to be taken and thrown in a cage, they're going to fight back. Just like any animal in the wild will do. Any animal in captivity will do. Right? Unless they've been completely domesticated. So, again, they take the aggressor and the committer of the crime and turn them into the victim. This is all part of the propaganda to create that official narrative that we're the good guys. We're not the bad guys. It's all a lie. He acted according to his training, she said. This officer is a longtime ICE officer who has been serving his country his entire life. What was he doing again, Christy?
Our officer followed his training.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's what I thought. Well, let's see what his training was. Let's look at the report from U.S. Customs and Border Patrol Protection. Use of Force Review, Cases and Policies, conducted by the Police Executive Research Forum, February 2013. Right? So, this puts us in this use of force review of the CBP exactly when Johnathan Ross was serving with them. Right? Now, this is a third-party organization which goes and let's read the introduction here. The Police Executive Research Forum, PERF, was commissioned by the U.S. Customs and Border Patrol, CBP, to conduct a review of the use of force by CBP officers and agents. This review included all CBP use of deadly force events from January 10th through October 2012 and CBP use of force policies, equipment, tactics, and training. What were they actually being trained to do? So, they took a 20-month time frame here, looked at all use of force events, and they reported their conclusions. That's what this report is all about. And one of the things they covered was firearms use against vehicles. So let's go a little further. The case reviews raise a number of concerns, especially with regard to shots fired at vehicles. Two policy and practice areas especially need significant change. First, officers' agents should be prohibited from shooting at vehicles unless vehicle occupants are attempting to use deadly force other than the vehicle against the agent. So they cannot use the vehicle moving as justification. Training and tactics should focus on avoiding positions that put agents in the path of a vehicle and getting out of the way of moving vehicles. So that's just initially. It goes deeper. Because these changes are significant departures from current practice, because a significant departure is, well, this is exactly what they're doing, they need to change this. CBP will need to craft an implementation strategy for reorientation and training before new policies go into effect. So basically, you need to retrain all your people because what they're doing is wrong. It's a violation of the law. It's a violation of individuals' rights. Okay, that's what PERF is saying here. Case reviews and observations. Overall observations and recommendations. Let's scroll down to shooting at vehicles. Recommendation. Agents in the public safety will be enhanced by policy changes related to shooting at vehicles. CBP should make policy changes that restrict agents from shooting at vehicles. Likewise, agents should be trained to get out of the way of oncoming vehicles, as opposed to intentionally assuming a position in the path of such vehicles. What did Johnathan Ross do in Minneapolis in the Renee Good incident? The policy should mirror the clear and unambiguous policies that have been in place and which have proven effective in a number of large U.S. jurisdictions for over 40 years. So we're just telling you, stop doing what you're doing because this policy is actually effective in over 40 of the largest U.S. jurisdictions. The CBP policy should state, agents shall not discharge their firearms at or from a moving vehicle unless deadly physical force is being used against the police officer or another person present by means other than a moving vehicle. Okay, that's pretty explicit. Let's go further. They get into a little bit more detail. Case summaries by general category. Shooting at vehicles. Now this is where they break it out in the most detail, so we're going to cover this to finalize this report and show you how egregiously your government and your right-wing sycophantic parrots and plagiarists are lying to you. Okay? Shooting at vehicles. 15 cases were reviewed where shots were fired at or into vehicles by CBP agents. Observations. Based on a review of the submitted cases, it appears that CBP practice allows shooting at the driver of any suspect vehicle that comes in the direction of agents. Okay, so if it's the practice, that means you were trained to do this. Okay? It is suspected that in many vehicle shooting cases, the subject driver was attempting to flee from the agents who intentionally put themselves into the exit path of the vehicle, thereby exposing themselves to additional risk and creating the justification for the use of deadly force. Right there, bam, mic drop. This is what they found in this report. They were doing this on purpose to create the justification for use of deadly force. And I'm going to show you exactly where he decided, based on his training, that he was going to kill this woman. Because his own video is the damning evidence. In most of these cases, the agents have stated that they were shooting at the driver of a vehicle that was coming at them and posing an imminent threat to their life. Really, were they? In some cases, passengers were struck by agents' gunfire. Little focus has been placed on defensive tactics that could have been used by the shooting agents, such as getting out of the way. How about you just get out of the way? Get in your car and chase them if you want to apprehend them. Okay? It should be recognized that a half-ounce, 200-grain bullet is unlikely to stop a 4,000-pound moving vehicle. And if the driver of the approaching vehicle is disabled by a bullet, the vehicle will become a totally unguided threat. And as you saw from some of the other angles in the Renee Good shooting, there actually was someone on the sidewalk literally feet away from where she ended up hitting that car because she had been shot in the head. So again, by doing this, they actually put that other woman in danger, because had the car gone a little bit further to the left, they may have hit and injured another person. The perf report is 100% accurate, and he was not following what he was retrained to do. He was acting on his original training. Obviously, shooting at a moving vehicle can pose a risk to bystanders, including other agents. Okay. The cases suggest that some of the shots at suspect vehicles are taken out of frustration. Oh, I'm so mad. When agents who are on foot have no other way of detaining suspects who are fleeing in a vehicle. And that's exactly what we saw with Johnathan Ross. He was butthurt, and that's why he did what he did. He was a hothead. He was frustrated and a sociopath at a very minimum, if not a full psychopath. Okay? Because anyone who could be a machine gunner on a gun truck in war and kill and kill and kill and apparently not be affected by it and go on to lead a career in law enforcement for what? Almost 20 years? That's not a person who's right in the head. Most reviewed cases involved non-violent suspects who posed no threat other than a moving vehicle. That's exactly what the Renee Good situation was. She was a non-violent suspect, posed no other threat, and her vehicle was only moving literally 1 mile an hour? How much damage is that going to do to you? She was trying to leave this situation. She was trying to just get out of there. Like, I don't want any of this. And you killed her. There was little doubt that the safest course for an agent faced with an oncoming vehicle is to get out of the way of the vehicle. Okay, that's what their recommendations were. Customs and Border Patrol policy should be: agents shall not discharge their firearms at or from a moving vehicle unless deadly physical force is being used against the police officer or another person present by means other than a moving vehicle. There you go, reiterated once again in the policy. If you're not being fired at, you are not allowed to pull your gun out. Period. Full stop. End of story. You're guilty as sin of murder. Johnathan Ross. This is what you were trained to do. You were still there when this policy came down, right? You were there from 2007 to 2015. So in 2013, when this policy came out, you had still had 2 years of being told that you're not allowed to shoot at another vehicle. So which training were you acting on? The training that Kristi Noem and J.D. Vance and all these establishment hacks are telling you who is acting on. Which training was it? Was it the one that told him he can't do it? Or was it the one that told him he should do it to create justification? Because nowhere was he trained that he was allowed to actually shoot at a moving vehicle. So again, the establishment is lying to you. And they know they're lying to you, but they get away with it because they're the ones in power. You see how this system works? It's disgusting, and it needs to end. Training and policy changes should be implemented to implement this policy. Okay? So again, he's guilty of sin. Because either way, if he was trained to get in front of a vehicle, well, they said you shouldn't do that. You should get out of the way. And he was also trained not to fire at a vehicle unless actual shots are being fired at him. That is the only justification to draw your weapon. Okay? Neither of those cases happened in the Renee Good shooting. So he is 100% guilty, at a very minimum, of creating the justification for use of deadly force. But as we go through this next video here, we're going to see that that can easily be upgraded to first-degree murder. And before we get to the video, let's also take a look at why they believe they're justified in doing this, right? I mean, they're obviously committing crimes all over the country, and they're not being held accountable for any of them. For the assaults, for the abuse, for the murders, you know, Alex Purdy, Renee Good, and the other people who have died in their custody, not a single ICE agent is being held accountable for any of the crimes that they're committing against these innocent people. Why? Why is that? Well, let's look at Qualified Immunity 2025. Why ICE agents escape justice. All right, now this article is a bit of a hot mess, but I've highlighted some excerpts here that we're going to go over. October 2025. White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller tells ICE agents, you have federal immunity in the conduct of your duties. Anybody who lays a hand on you or tries to stop you is committing a felony. Legal experts say that's false, but practically he's right. Qualified immunity means ICE agents who violate your constitutional rights face zero consequences, even when federal judges rule their arrests illegal. So, hey, I know I'm going to get away scot-free. I can do whatever I want. And so, I'm going to act on my training and get in front of this vehicle so that I can justify pulling my weapon on this woman. Because I'm frustrated and I'm butthurt. That's exactly what Johnathan Ross did. But the right wing defends him and he calls everyone who says otherwise, you're crazy, you're terrorists. You see why we can't have nice things? Only one ICE agent was removed from duty in 2025, despite multiple documented Fourth Amendment violations caught on video. So only one ICE agent was removed. 615 people were ordered released in Chicago in November of 2025 after judge found ICE violated their Fourth Amendment. 0 agents were prosecuted. They continue to get away with their crimes. Zero chance. Department of Justice lawyer quote on probability of ICE agents facing criminal charges under Trump administration 2025. What is qualified immunity? Simple version. Government officials, cops, ICE agents, federal officers can't be sued for violating your constitutional rights unless they violated clearly established law. Real version. Even when ICE agents violate your Fourth Amendment rights, they claim, we didn't know warrantless racial profiling raids were illegal, and courts accept it. Result, ICE conducts unconstitutional arrests. Federal judges rule the arrest violated the Constitution. Courts order people released. ICE arrests more people in the exact same way tomorrow. Zero consequences. This isn't a law. Congress never passed it. The Supreme Court invented it in 1967, and they keep expanding it. Okay? Now, let's go on. Real examples. When violating rights gets you nothing. Leonardo Garcia Venegas, U.S. citizen detained twice. What happened? ICE detained Leonardo Garcia Venegas, a United States citizen, twice in Alabama. He showed his birth certificate both times. They held him anyway. Clear violation. Fourth Amendment, unlawful detention, due process. Status? Lawsuit pending, qualified immunity defense. Agent will argue, I didn't know detaining a U.S. citizen twice despite birth certificate violated clearly established law. Likely outcome? Qualified immunity granted, case dismissed, agent faces nothing. This is your legal system. It's not justice. It's not a justice system. It's just us. We are above you. This is how a fascist country operates and why we see the fascies in Congress on the wall. Because we create the laws, you must abide by them, but we're not going to abide by them. We're going to impose our will on you. That's why we live in a de facto fascist plutocracy. Okay? It's already been established in this book. 3 shields protecting ICE. How accountability dies. ICE agents have 3 layers of protection. You have to break through all 3 to hold them accountable. Almost nobody does. Shield 1, qualified immunity, protects from civil lawsuits. What it blocks: personal lawsuits against individual agents. Standard, rights must be clearly established. Practical effect, can't sue agents even when they violate Fourth Amendment. Example, agent arrests you without warrant. You sue agent personally. Qualified immunity equals case dismissed. Shield 2, sovereign immunity, protects the government. What it blocks: lawsuits against federal agencies. Standard, federal government can't be sued without its consent. Practical effect, can sue under Federal Tort Claims Act, FTCA, but massive carve-outs for discretionary functions, ICE argues, arrest decisions are discretionary. Courts often agree. Example, you sue ICE for unlawful arrest policy. Sovereign immunity equals case dismissed or severely limited. Shield 3, Political Department of Justice protects from criminal prosecution. What it blocks: criminal charges for constitutional violations. Standard: Department of Justice has to decide to prosecute. Trump administration: zero chance of an immigration agent being criminally charged. Why? Attorney General decides prosecution's priorities. Under Trump, that's prosecuting people who help immigrants, not agents who abuse them. So again, no matter what angle you come at here, they're going to get away with any crime that they commit. It does not matter, because they are above the law. They don't care. All they care about is imposing their will and blinding their sycophantic followers into believing that what they're doing is right and beneficial, and it's because they're stealing from you and they're stealing from the American public, when again it's been proven that they're not. They're actually a net positive to our GDP, to the term of trillions of dollars. So again, look at all the MAGA people who believe that the government is telling them the truth. It's all a lie, but they all believe it. And that's what I talked about in chapter 1. They're living in a false reality because they believe the lies. And when you believe a lie, your life is a lie. You're living in this manufactured reality that has no basis in objective truth. There's the problem with our world right there. And one final excerpt here has to do with Palantir. How Palantir's Immigration OS selects ICE targets. Now, Palantir, as you know, is owned by billionaire psychopath Alex Karp, who we saw in chapter 1. As a member of the Trumpiverse of technocracy, ICE's $28 billion surveillance budget. The funding behind enforcement operations. Know your rights. ICE encounters. When accountability fails, know how to protect yourself. Palantir's $287 million immigration machine. So Palantir and what they're doing is they're finding the targets for the ICE agents, not based on any crime, just based on the fact that they're here. And many of these people are here working their asses off, waiting for a hearing, but because the immigration department is so slow and drags their feet on so many things, they're just being taken away. All right? The U.S. government isn't honoring their word of, hey, come to your trial, come to your hearing, we'll decide whether you can stay or not. Again, I think that's all BS to begin with. We'll talk about it in chapter 4. But Palantir's software is one of the primary tools in selecting who these ICE agents go after. So again, this is the world that we're building, that's being built around us right now. This full surveillance, this panopticon, this 24/7 panopticon. And eventually, it's going to be turned on all of those who dissent against this criminal government. People like me. Because it's a criminal organization. And they're going to spy on you. And this is George Orwell's 1984 on steroids. And it's exactly what's being built. That's what Stargate is all about. It's about the surveillance state. It's about building the surveillance state. The Trojan horse is the AI hype machine, saying that, oh, it's going to take your job. It's going to make everything so much easier for you, right? But that's a bubble, right? The numbers don't add up. And I'm going to be doing some videos about this after the book is finished, but the AI bubble is going to collapse because you can't spend hundreds of billions to make tens of billions. The economics doesn't match up. There will never be a market large enough to pay for the cost or the supply of the AI data machine. It's too expensive. And there's not a big enough market to pay for the cost of it. So what they're doing is they're building these AI data centers, and when the bubble bursts and the economy collapses, they're going to be converted into the AI governance, the 24/7 digital panopticon. That's why they're being built, because they're going to be there. The infrastructure is going to be there. When the economy collapses, you're going to have people like BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard come in and buy up everything for pennies on the dollar. The government's going to use it to surveil your entire life. That's what's happening. That's the true reality. And that's why they're using immigration as a foothold to get this implemented. It's all part of the Hegelian dialectic. The thesis was bring in the immigrants, create the problem. The antithesis was, oh my God, they're taking our money from us. We have to get rid of them. Biden and Obama opened the floodgates and they came in millions, tens of millions. And now we have to get rid of them because they're a drain on our economy, which isn't true. Again, we proved that in chapter 1. But this is all part of the Hegelian dialectic. Create the problem, thesis, fan the flames of the public reaction, antithesis, and the synthesis is this 24/7 surveillance society that we do not want to end up in. So you need to get through this whole entire book and see what the solution is in chapter 8. Now that we've got all that laid out, let's go actually take a look at Johnathan Ross's video and show, based on his training that I just showed you, right, from CBP, that he is guilty, is sin. You know, this is the same video that the right wing released because they said it proves his innocence. No, it actually does the opposite. So let's go take a look at that video. So here we go. And again, from the time he gets out of his car, walks around the vehicle, the time that the two masked ICE agent mercenary goons get out of their truck that had just pulled up, to the time that he fires that third bullet is 37 seconds total. So there is no attempt to de-escalate. There is no attempt to communicate. This was an ambush. Okay? It was a hit. Now watch. I mean, he's literally circling his prey like he would do in the wild. That's what he's doing here.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad.
Was that aggressive? Was that hostile? No. All right, now look at the reflection in her car here, and I'll see if I can stop it. Right there. Okay, we see him. This is his, so it's a reflection. So this is his left arm. Okay? He's holding his phone in his right hand, filming this whole interaction. This is going to be his proof. This is going to justify his actions, right? That's what he's thinking here. He's recording this, and you can clearly see the phone. It's not a body cam. It's his actual phone that he's recording. It's in his right hand, okay?
Okay, we don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former fucking...
She's doing nothing wrong. You can talk to a federal agent. She's not even swearing, nothing. She's doing nothing wrong. She's filming them. She has every right to do it. Nobody's doing anything wrong here.
You want to come at us?
Right here. This is the moment. Okay, he's on the side of her car. All right, we're literally right now, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds into this clip. He made one circle around her car. He's in no danger here whatsoever. He's moving his left hand. You can see it in the shot here. He's taking his phone from his right hand and putting it in his left hand, because right here is the moment that he's already made the decision that he's going to move in front of her car because of his training at the Customs and Border Patrol and position himself right there to create justification to shoot her. But in order to shoot her, he has to free his gun hand, his shooting hand, so he has to get this camera out of his right hand and put it into his left hand. So this is the moment right here that he decides he's going to use deadly force. He's in no danger right here. Right? The car isn't moving. In fact, you can see she's already turning her wheels because she sees the agents coming and she knows this is escalating more than I wanted it to, and she's already turning her wheels because she's already starting to back out. And you can see the movement here, right? She's already starting to back out. In this, you can see in the screenshot, the freeze frame, from here to here, she's already backing so that she could pull her car away from the situation. She just wants to get out of there. She sees that, okay, this probably wasn't a good idea. I'm just going to leave. Which she had every right to do. She was not being detained. She had done nothing wrong. Just because people are screaming at you doesn't mean you have to stop. Unlike what these right-wing sycophants are telling you, she was given orders and she should have gotten out of her car. Anyway, let's continue.
Yes, I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Right there. Again, a couple of seconds. He could have stayed right there. He could have let these two guys, these two goons back here, try and handle the situation. He could have stayed by his truck, his SUV, and just let them handle it. But what does he do? He decides to move in front of her car. And there's only one reason he did that. It was because what he was trained to do in Customs and Border Patrol between 2007 and 2015. Okay? Again, what was he doing, Ice Barbie?
What we do know is that this was clearly a law enforcement action where the officer acted on his training.
Right, thank you. Yeah, that's what I thought. He was acting on his training. This is what he was trained to do. He was trained to create justification to use deadly force. And he was also told, don't do that anymore. That's not good. That violates people's rights. But he referred it to his original training because this man is a psychopath. Okay? Let's continue.
Car. Get out of the fucking car.
All right, get out of the fucking car, get out of the fucking car. You got two guys yelling at her, coming up to her car. And from the point that they got out of their car, again, their silver pickup truck, started screaming at her to the point that she had the third bullet in her head was 7 seconds. No attempt to de-escalate, no attempt to talk, to reason, say, what are you doing? Move your car, nothing. It was, I'm going to move in front of her car. I've already decided I'm going to shoot her because I moved my phone from my shooting hand to my left hand so I can continue filming this and free up my gun hand. All right? He's already made the decision that he's going to kill this woman, or at least shoot her. All right, we back. No, this is slow motion. She's backing up. Oh, look at her turning the wheel. That's what you do when you're trying to get out of there. You're turning the wheel. You know, she's turning the wheel to the right. That's exactly what she's doing here. And the right-wing media says, oh, she was turning her wheel to ram the officer. No, that's not at all what she was doing. She turned the wheel to the left to back up, to position her car so that she could get out of the way. And after she saw that Johnathan had moved to the front of the car, she's like, okay, now I can get out. Because as she was backing up, he was still on the left side, or the right side of her car, right? So she was backing up so that she could make the move. And when he moved to the front of the car, she's like, here's my chance to just get out of this situation. So you can clearly see she was turning the wheel of the car right there, vigorously. And this is literally a second from when he fires the first shot. He didn't stop to think anything. Again, 3 seconds prior to this, he had already made the decision that he's going to shoot this woman. Three shots right there. Bam. That's it. That's it. And then you had, obviously, the fucking bitch comment. So, where the right wing says that it vindicated him, no. His own video showed that he's guilty of sin. It showed you that he decided that he was going to free up his gun hand clearly when he was out of danger. He was on the right side of her car, out of danger. He didn't have to move in front of her car at all. There were already two people that were confronting her. He didn't need to move from where he was at all. The only reason he went in front of her car was so that he could shoot her. Period. Full stop. There was no reason for him to go out to move in front of her car. He was right by his SUV. He had two people confronting her. There was no justification to get in front of the car other than he needed to create justification to shoot her. It's irrefutable evidence. There is no other rationale you can use to justify what he did. Because again, when he freed up his gun hand, he was right by his SUV. He was out of danger. Didn't need to move in front of her car at all. Could have let those two other guys handle the situation. They were already going after her door. They were trying to get in there, and she was just trying to get out of there. She was backing her car up because he was on the right side, her passenger side. She had a clear exit, right? And then when he moved in front of her car, she backed up a little bit more and then vigorously turned the wheel to the right because she did not want to hit him. That's the truth. That's what your eyes are seeing in this video. But the gaslighting tells you otherwise. That's because your government is a 100% criminal organization. And they support, you got qualified immunity, and there you go. Now, let's look at one more video from a sane point of view, from another creator who saw it from the same point of view that I did.
Did Renee Good hit ICE officer Johnathan Ross with her car? I wasn't planning on making a video about this, but I keep seeing people saying either that the footage proves he wasn't hit or that it shows he was hit, and both of those can't be true at the same time. And I'll be honest.
Exactly, because truth is truth, right? There's only one objective truth. And if you're not aligning with the objective truth, then you're lying. Simple as that. You know, I brought this into the video book because this guy does an excellent job of breaking this down.
When I saw this clip, I thought, that really does look like he was hit. Maybe I was wrong. So I gathered a bunch of angles, synchronized them up in an editing software to look frame by frame at what happened, and it turns out we can arrive at a definitive conclusion, so we'll do that together. We start with this angle shot by bystander Caitlin Collinson, which shows Renee Good waving the first ICE car to pass in front of her, which they do. Then,
all right, and I don't even think that was an ICE car. I think that was just someone, just a local resident, just driving by, right? And that's what she was doing. She wasn't impeding it. She was waving him by, and even when that ICE pickup truck pulled up, she was saying, "Go by, go ahead, go around me. You know, I'm not blocking anything." This was a 4-lane one-way street. Okay, we have parking lane on the right and left, and then 2 lanes of traffic in the middle. So the only way that you could go was that way, right? One way. And it's another reason that Johnathan Ross positioned himself at the front left of her car, because he knew that if he put himself there and she would try to get, and she was going to drive away, that he would not get hit. So again, more justification for not shooting her, right? You have the perf report that says you're not allowed to fire at vehicles unless you're being fired at. Don't put yourself in front of vehicles to begin with. And if you do see a vehicle moving at you, get out of the way. He violated all 3 of those parts of his training, right? And he reverted to his original training, which told him, get in front of the car so that you can create justification, right? So, again, the entire establishment's lying to you. And an innocent woman is dead. And again, the only thing she did wrong, from my perspective, is I would not have parked my car sideways in the middle of a street, all right? Not the brightest thing to do, but again, not completely illegal. Maybe it was a traffic violation at the very most, ticket for impeding traffic, but absolutely none of what she did justified murder. None of it. But you're being told that, hey, he was justified in shooting her and killing her. And it absolutely disgusts me. And that's what I was saying on social media, on Facebook. And I was attacked by all these right-wing sycophants calling me a communist and a lefty, and I'm being influenced by the left-wing propaganda. No, I'm not. I'm being influenced by what my eyes are seeing here, by the truth, right? Because I have a mind to think for myself, and I can see the rhetoric, and I can look at the grammar and logic that doesn't support the rhetoric, and I can see that the rhetoric that you're being told, the official narrative, is a lie. And I'm calling you out on your BS. But you're attacking me because you can't accept the fact that you're wrong. Again, that's why we have the world we live in today. All right, let's continue this video. So yeah, she's waving them by. It's like, go ahead, you know. Now listen to what she says here, because I didn't catch this. He's the only one that caught this. So listen to what she says.
She waits for the second car to pass, but they stop and 2 ICE officers exit the vehicle. At this point, you can hear her say, "I'm pulling out."
She says, "I'm pulling out. Hey, I'm okay. I'm leaving. I'm leaving." And again, right here, 7 seconds. She clearly says, "I'm pulling out. I don't want to be here." All right. Her wife was trying to get in the car, and they came at her so fast and so aggressively, And Johnathan Ross moved himself into the front of the car so quickly that they escalated this on purpose. 7 seconds from the time they got out of their truck to the third bullet in her head. That's all it took. No effort to de-escalate. She said, "I'm pulling out. I want to go." Right? And they could have just let her go. All right? She's moving her car. That's fine. Let's get back into our pickup truck. That's all that had to happen. She did nothing wrong. The guilty ones are the ICE agents, as they've been guilty in all these constitutional violations for the past year and a half. But they have qualified immunity. They can do whatever they want. They can commit whatever crimes they want on American streets, and they're going to be defended, and they're not going to be prosecuted. That's how criminal your government is. Okay? So yeah, I'm pulling out. Let's watch this. This is a great video.
They tell her to get out of the car. They start yanking on the door handle and reach inside her vehicle. This already disproves claims by DHS head Kristi Noem, who said that she was belligerent towards them and attacked them as they were pushing their cars out in the snow. And when
Yeah, they weren't even pushing their cars out. I mean, I don't know where Kristi Noem got that. Nobody was stuck in that street. They were all moving. There was no snowbanks. It's just like, where do they come up with these lies? I mean, it's amazing. It's just so gross. This entire system is so gross.
passes in front of her car window, she tells him,
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
which further shows that she was being calm and polite and trying to de-escalate the situation so she could leave. As far as I understand, this is her wife, which you could argue is being slightly more confrontational, but one, she has every right to be, and two, she's not behind the wheel, so her behavior is not at issue at all. Moments before the shooting, you can see on Ross's camera that she's turning the steering wheel right. You can also see the wheels of the car turning right from the other angle as Ross steps out of the path of the vehicle. Okay, third angle, this was posted by ABC5 and ICE defenders say this shows Ross being hit. This is what is professionally referred to as potato quality footage. It's a blob of pixels, so it's really hard to see what's happening. But there are three really important things we can get from this footage. One, the moment before the car purportedly hits him, if you synchronize the footage with the other angle, you can see that he was already outside of the path of the car. It only looks like he was hit because this is from the same angle as a Hollywood film would shoot an action scene to make it look like a punch connects with an actor's face.
And that's why they used, that was the only footage that was being shown on the media the day of to create this official narrative that he was run over and he was plowed down by her, right? That's the only thing that they were showing. And then all the other footage came out that completely disproves all of it. But they're just sticking with this one shot. Now listen to what he says about this.
Two, despite the potato quality, as far as I can tell, these are his legs. I'm gonna highlight them in white so you can see what they're doing. You can see him shifting sideways as the car starts to move forward. Importantly, he stays on both feet for the entire incident, which contradicts claims saying that the footage shows one of his legs being swept up by the hood of the car. There's a 3D recreation of the incident by an NGO called Index Investigation based on the angle from the back. And based on the footage, they depict him leaning on the side of the hood as he's shooting in the side window, which is exactly what we can see in the potato video.
So he pushed himself into the car on purpose. Again, to further create more justification. He put himself in front of the car, and again, at the front left purposely, because he knew that he would be safe there. But as soon as her car moved, he believed that he had the justification to shoot her. And shoot as many times as he wanted to. Which is what he did. Again, he didn't even need to be there. He could have just stayed right here by his SUV, let the other two guys handle the situation, and just let her drive away. And that's what she should have done. But because of his training with the CBP, he decided, I'm going to free up my gun hand, I'm going to move in front of her car so that I can shoot this bitch. That's exactly what went through his head, I guarantee it. Because he's a sociopath, if not a psychopath.
And three, this is the most important one. The snippet that is used from the potato video that is circulating most widely online as a case closed he was hit was tampered with. It doesn't have original sound. It's a less than 1 second clip playing on a loop, and it's been sped up to make it look like the car is going faster than it was.
And that's where I was getting attacked on Facebook. People were saying, oh, didn't you see the video? He was totally rammed by her. It was this video here. A totally doctored, sped up video. She wasn't moving that fast when she pulled out of there. She was just trying to slowly pull away, get out of the situation, drive away, and live to protest another day, which she had every right to do. And this psychopath, again, he decided, I'm going to shoot this bitch while he was over here by his SUV on the side of her car. No danger whatsoever. He did this on purpose so that he could kill her. And your criminal system is defending the entire thing. It's so disgusting. And because I sided with Renee Good in this situation, all my right-wing followers, I'm now their enemy. Now, the same people that stood shoulder to shoulder with me during COVID, calling out that tyranny. They can't see that this is tyranny. They can't see anything wrong here. You know, I mean, again, this is what the statist mindset does to people. It's another mind virus that warps your perception of reality. And that's the whole purpose of propaganda, per Edward Bernays in his book from 1928. And why I did the whole first chapter on everything that I covered to show you that the reality that we're living in is a false reality created to control us so that they can do their dirty deeds behind the scenes and create a world in which we're going to be 100% controlled, 100% manipulated, and basically slaves to their system. No rights, no freedoms, just privileges, and if you don't comply with everything they tell you, you're going to be dealt with. That's where we're going. And that's why this book is so important, because I'm going to show you in chapter 8 how we end it all and create a world in which all rights are restored back to where they should have been all along with the individual.
This is part of a deliberate disinformation campaign to change the narrative, so it's not your fault if you were misled by a clip that was tampered with.
Exactly.
And cherry on top, the last thing she said to him was,
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you.
and this is the first thing he said after killing her.
Fucking bitch.
And it only got worse from there, where they didn't even try to give her first aid, and they prevented bystanders from helping her, including one who identified himself as a medical professional. I hope this was helpful. Let me know if I changed your mind.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. That was a great video. And again, it shows the disingenuous nature of the establishment of these ICE agents. And what it shows more than anything is victim blaming. They're blaming Renee Good for 100% at fault for everything here. And the actual murderer, the criminal, is getting away scot-free. That's how disgusting our system is. Right? Just, it blows my mind. And so that's going to end this little segment of the presentation. I think I skipped over a couple points here, but let's go back to the slideshow here. Oh yeah, one thing I forgot to mention earlier with Tim Fool is he wears this little black beanie like he's some kind of hipster cool guy. He got to start at Occupy Wall Street as a left-wing type of journalist, and now he's this right-wing sycophant. But he wears this little beanie as I'm some kind of hipster propagandist here or journalist telling you the truth from a right-wing perspective, because if he actually showed his true self every day, nobody would take this guy seriously. I mean, this guy is such a complete douchebag, and he gets millions of people watching him every day. It's just, that's why this world is so screwed up, because people look at this guy as some kind of authority, and it's just disgusting. I mean, this post here says, Tim Pool has always been a loser. Sorry, nothing this man actually believes is based or enlightening. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people see through his facade, but his followers just think he's great. It's just really sad. Anyway, part 2, we already covered who is Johnathan Ross and what kind of training did he receive. We already covered that. Part 3, what really happened from a logical and rational point of view. We covered that. Clearly what we were told was a lie. What really happened was this woman got herself in a situation she no longer wanted to be in and was simply trying to just leave. That's it. And she was murdered for that. And Johnathan Ross needs to be held accountable, but he's not. All right, we'll cover that here in a little bit. Now, We're going to take a look at the official narrative and blatant gaslighting here real quick. We're going to cover that initial montage once again to see just how egregiously they're lying to us. Right? Now that we know the truth, let's go back and take a look at that video montage again.
What you see is what you get in this case. You have a woman who is trying to obstruct a legitimate law enforcement operation. Nobody debates that.
No, there are people that debate that all the time because she wasn't trying to do that. She was simply trying to exercise her First Amendment rights of protest. And I'm sorry if you can hear the lawn machines going. That's the problem with recording at home. No, everybody debates that. JD, he says nobody debates that. No, I'm sorry, you're wrong. You're lying. Right there, that was a lie. That was gaslighting.
You have a woman who aimed her car at a law enforcement officer and pressed on the accelerator. Nobody debates that.
No, a lot of people debate that. We've just shown you that's not what happened. She was backing her car up and turning a wheel so that she could get out of the situation. She didn't aim it at anybody. In fact, your law enforcement agent is the one who put himself in front of the car on purpose per his training so that he could shoot her. So again, two massive lies from your vice president. Okay, let's go. Let's continue.
It's a tragedy of her own making and a tragedy of the far left who has marshaled an entire movement, a lunatic fringe against our law enforcement officers.
No, the tragedy is the fact that you've weaponized a Department of Homeland Security, which essentially violates posse comitatus because they are a militarized force, masked, with guns, hiding their faces, with no identity, out on American streets, pulling people from their home and places of work. That's the tragedy, right? It's not a radical left-wing conspiracy or terrorist organization. You're the ones who are the terrorists, J.D. Vance. You're the ones who are doing what you're doing and terrorizing all these people around our country who are, again, doing no harm. And if they are doing harm, that's for local law enforcement to take care of. So again, gross lies right here, gross gaslighting. Let's continue.
The deadly incident that took place in Minnesota yesterday occurred as a result of a larger, sinister, left-wing movement.
Do you remember when Hillary Clinton, when she was running for president, and everything was a vast right-wing conspiracy against her? It's always the enemy. It's always the other side that's the enemy. And that's how these people play your emotions, depending on which hive mind you've chosen to plug into. That's how all this works, right? And until you people decide that I'm not going to play this game any longer, you're going to continue to be played like pawns on their chessboard.
I haven't seen one ICE officer found guilty of anything inappropriate. I have not seen ICE act outside of policy.
Wow. This is your border czar, Tom Homan, denying that they've ever used excessive force. We showed you that qualified immunity clip with all the crimes that have been committed, and they're just getting away with it in the courts. So another liar in your government, blatantly lying and gaslighting you right here.
And if they are acting outside of policy, I'm not aware of it.
I'm not aware of anything. It's your freaking job to be aware of everything. I mean, what is it? This is the epitome of the Peter Principle. You're going to be promoted to the position of your incompetency, right? The Peter Principle. Tom Homan, your border czar, he sees nothing wrong. Oh, they're not doing anything wrong. If they are, I haven't seen it. Wow.
If you look at what the definition of domestic terrorism is, it completely fits the situation on the ground.
Yeah, domestic terrorism is a domestic force terrorizing the public. It's your ICE agents who are the domestic terrorists, Christy Nome. Again, they flip everything. Everything is inverted. Protesters are not domestic terrorists. And I'm going to show you here in a second what they were doing just back in 2009 under the Obama administration. Okay? And we're going to get deeper into this whole domestic terrorist thing.
This individual, as you saw in the video that we released just 48 hours after this incident, showed that this officer was hit by her vehicle. She weaponized it.
False.
And he defended his life and those colleagues around him and the public.
False, false, false. It's all false, as we've already proven. So again, they just lie. That's all they are. They're liars. Your government are just The entire government is just full of liars. That's it. The entire government is full of liars.
She was a agitator, probably a paid agitator, but in my opinion, she was an agitator, a very high-level agitator, so professional.
So professional. Oh my God, yeah, she looked so professional, trying to just slow them down just a little bit, get in their face, whatever. Again, she wasn't doing anything wrong. She wasn't aggressing against them. Nothing.
When it comes to an unarmed civilian, was it really the appropriate moral response for her to be shot?
Well, if you see the tape and you look into the details of that, that unarmed civilian weaponized a motor vehicle and...
There you go. The official narrative. Another liar, Mike Johnson, U.S. Speaker of the House. Third in command, right? The third most powerful person in the country. You got Trump, Vance, and now Mike Johnson. You get all three of them are lying to you. All three are blatantly lying to you. And they're telling you if you call us liars, then you're a domestic terrorist. You're the one who's wrong. It's just, God, I hate this country right now.
Tried to run over an officer who serves in the Immigration, Customs, and Enforcement Agency of the country. And he made a split-second decision, and it looks to...
No, he didn't make a split-second decision. He made a conscious decision before he was even in danger. Because the moment he moved that phone from his right hand to his left hand was the moment he decided he's going to shoot her. Okay? So again, another liar. He's just lying to you.
Me to have been an act of self-defense. He was defending himself.
The Trump administration and President Trump is the most transparent and open government that we've ever had.
Wow. Are you effing kidding me? The most open and transparent government we've ever had. Wow. Probably the most blatant liars ever to hold office in this country's history. This is how gross the gaslighting is with this administration. And again, I was no fan of the Biden administration either. I called them out equally. Every administration, as long as the system is in place, humanity will never be free, right? Because the system is the matrix. And this is a primary part of the matrix. The government is population control.
Look the information, give them what they need to know about a situation so they can have the truth as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, you're giving us the truth. Thank you, Christy, so much. Yeah, we're getting the truth from you guys. You're so transparent and so open. We're getting nothing but truth from you. Right? Again, the MAGA-tards, they all believe this. I don't believe anything that comes from government. I haven't for over 2 decades. But I'm an outlier, right?
Horribly. And then she ran him over. The woman in the car before she got shot, I heard, was unbelievably badly behaved.
That's fine, dude. I'm not mad at you. Show your face.
There you go. So every bit of that was propaganda. And that's why I started this chapter with what I did. This is what propaganda looks like in a supposedly free society. When your leaders are lying to you about everything, you're not in a free society. You're in a controlled society. And they're getting you to believe something because it would expose their crimes and it would also expose their agenda. Simple as that. So, that's how gross this is. That's how absolutely disgusting that situation was. Why I spoke out in defense of Renee Good. Why I got attacked. And there you go. There's my evidence. There's my empirical evidence that it was premeditated use of deadly force. And it's undeniable, right? You saw his training, showed him what to do. His training also told him, don't do that anymore. That's not right. So which training was he operating on? Christy, JD, all you demons in government? Supporting a murderer? Wow. Okay, let's see where we're going now. Part 5. Why do these ICE mercenaries get away with their crimes? Okay, we already talked about qualified immunity. Now let's compare the NSPM-7 and a 2009 report on political radicalization. Okay, because again, they get away with their crimes because of qualified immunity, and this NSPM-7 is what gave them the idea that they had qualified immunity. So let's go take a look at that. We have Countering Domestic Terrorism and Organized Political Violence from September 25th of 2025. Okay? This is just last year, a couple weeks after the Charlie Kirk event, which I'll cover in the future, but that, again, is not what we're being told at all. By the authority vested in me as President by the Constitution and laws of the United States of America, I hereby direct the following. Domestic terrorism and organized political violence, heinous assassinations, and other acts of political violence in the United States have dramatically increased in recent years. In the aftermath of the horrifying assassination of Charlie Kirk, some individuals who adhered to the alleged shooter's ideology embraced and cheered this evil murder while actively encouraging more political violence. Okay? This political violence is not a series of isolated incidents and does not emerge organically. Instead, it is a culmination of sophisticated, organized campaigns of targeted intimidation. Targeted intimidation, isn't that what ICE is doing? Radicalization, isn't that what you did with ICE? Radicalize them? Threats and violence, isn't what ICE doing violent? Designed to silence opposing speech. Oh, isn't that what you're doing with attacking protesters with your ICE goons and their rubber bullets and their bear spray and mace and tear gas? Seems to me you're describing ICE here, not protesters. Limit political activity, change or direct policy outcomes, and prevent the functioning of a democratic society. Oh, gee, there's that democratic society that Bernays was referring to all the way back in 1928, which I'm going to show you is the cage that keeps you trapped from being free, because it gives you the illusion of safety and protection, right? This is all part of the propaganda. This is all part of the false reality that we live in here today. A new law enforcement strategy that investigates all participants in these criminal and terroristic conspiracies, because government doesn't conspire to do anything, including the organized structures, networks, entities, organizations, funding sources, and predicate actions behind them, is required. So now we need a new government agency to figure all this out, right? We're not creating the problem by going out and being the real terrorist on American streets. We're going to make, again, this is victim blaming. This is a perfect example of victim blaming, because the people who are just simply engaging in their rights as human beings to protest against what's being done to them by their government are being demonized and called all these things that are actually defining what ICE is doing, if you look at it in objective reality and truth. These campaigns often begin by isolating and dehumanizing specific targets. What is ICE going after? Are you not dehumanizing immigrants? Are you not isolating them and removing them from society and throwing them in a cage and treating them like animals to justify murder or other violent action against them? Excuse me, who's murdering? Who's violently acting upon these people? Who are the real domestic terrorists, right? It's your government. It's ICE. And again, I don't call for violence against this at all. As you'll see in Chapter 8, there is a peaceful solution to all of this. So I don't even advocate for protesting, because protesting is just begging your masters to loosen the chain. It's not effective. It's never been effective. Nothing ever changes by protesting. All right, I'm going to show you where our real power lies in Chapter 8. These movements portray foundational American principles. Support for law enforcement and border control is fascist to justify and encourage acts of violent revolution. Okay, again, let's break that down. You've already proven that you're fascist. We live in a fascist plutocracy. I don't encourage acts of violent revolution. Revolution does not need to be violent at all. Restoration can be 100% peaceful. I'm going to show you how we do that. But again, this is the fiery rhetoric they use to create an emotional response in their followers, because what they're trying to do eventually is foment a civil war between the right and the left. And I'm trying to stop that with my work and show you, look, you're being played. Both sides of you are being played. You're pawns on their chessboard. Break free of your programming. Break free of your labels and your ideologies so that we can work together to stop the puppet masters in hierarchy who are playing this game of chess and using you as pawns. This anti-fascist lie, it's not a lie. You are fascist. You are a fascist government. There's no denying that. It has become the organizing, rallying cry used by domestic terrorists. Again, there's that word, domestic terrorists. They're labeling protesters as domestic terrorists to wage a violent assault against democratic institutions, constitutional rights, and fundamental American liberties. No, it's you who are violently assaulting true democratic institutions, true constitutional or individual unalienable rights, and fundamental American liberties, right? It's the government that's doing that, but again, they're telling you it's the political enemy. It's not the right wing, it's the left wing that's doing it all. Common threads animating this violent conduct include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity, support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, race, and gender, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality. There's so much to unpack there, and everything they're telling you is that their government is what's giving you all these things, and that their political enemy is anti-American, anti-capitalist, anti-Christianity. Okay? We're going to get in chapter 8 and show you that the capitalist model, as it is right now, the crony capitalist, shareholder capitalist model, is a violation of natural law. And so we're gonna break that down in chapter 8. I've already shown you what the American dream is and how it's being destroyed by the system. Christianity, there's space in the new social order for everybody to worship their religion in their own way. I don't advocate for overthrowing the United States government. I advocate for dissolving it because, as you will see in chapters 7 and 8, that it's no longer legitimate based on the reason it was created. Right? In the Declaration of Independence, it's a completely illegitimate government, and it needs to be replaced based on our founding document. It says right there in the Declaration of Independence that when government, first of all, it says government is instituted for the sole purpose of protecting our individual rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And when it becomes destructive of those ends, which it has, it doesn't protect our lives, it doesn't protect our liberty, it doesn't protect our pursuit of happiness, right? It steals from us. It's a parasite which extracts our energy and extracts our wealth to be used by the hierarchy above it in their wars, in their rape of natural resources, everything. That's what government is used for. I made this meme a couple years ago where I showed that government is a hammer. The one side, it hammers you down, and the other side, it's used to extract your wealth. And that's all government is. It's a hammer. It's a tool that's used by the hierarchy, which we covered in chapter 1, to control you and to extract your wealth. That's it. So, does the United States government need to be overthrown? Absolutely. Not a violent overthrowing, a peaceful dissolution of it, because it doesn't do what it was instituted to do, which is protect us, right? Because again, when it becomes destructive of its ends, it is the right of the people to abolish and replace it. That's in our Declaration of Independence, which we are going to be celebrating 250 years of on July 4th. But why are we celebrating this independence anymore when we're no longer independent? We're completely dependent on this system because it controls everything, right? If we want true independence, we need to declare our independence once again. That's what I'm going to show you how we do in chapter 8. So again, this whole thing, this NSPM 7 is more gaslighting, more lying. Extremism on migration. People should be able to live wherever they want in the world. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in chapters 4 and 8. Race and gender, I'm sorry, but it's the government that creates all the extremism on racism and gender identity. Hostility towards those who hold traditional American values. There's no hostility towards anyone who holds true traditional American values. That's what I'm trying to restore with my work, is true American values, true morality, a restoration of the family unit, a restoration of family values, a return to the world that I grew up in the 70s, where I thought this was the greatest place in the world. And I was horrified to find out that what I believed America was isn't at all what it is, and why I've dedicated 19 years of my life to doing this work and waking people up to reality so that we can peacefully break free of this system. All right? And morality, I mean, it's not a moral system at all, okay? It's the epitome of immorality. So that's the NSPM 7 that was basically infiltrated into ICE agents and said, you're allowed to go ahead and do this. Now let's go take a look at a quick video from Kim Iverson talking about this NSPM 7. It's really good. She breaks it down real quick here, so we'll just let her speak.
Homeland Security, they are saying that she weaponized her vehicle. Others are saying, no, absolutely not. And when people have dissected this frame by frame, they see that she's obviously turned her wheels completely, avoiding the officer standing in front of her. He then steps to the side, gets out of the way, and then shoots her after he was already cleared from potentially being run over. My first instinct with this whole thing was to think it just happened so quickly that it just looked like both sides panicked. It looked like she panicked and she started driving the car, and the officer panicked and shot her. And I think that's reasonable to believe.
That's unreasonable, because when you really look at it and break it down the way that I just did, it wasn't panicking. She was just like, she saw it escalating and she didn't want to be there. You may call that panicking, but he made a conscious decision when he was completely in a safe area that he was going to shoot this woman. And I've already proven that based on his training and based on the moment that he moved his phone from his shooting hand to his left hand so that he could reach for his gun when he got into position. Okay, so that's the only part of this I disagree with, but she's going to talk about this NSPM 7 here right now.
However, there's a real possibility that this ICE agent was doing exactly what he was trained to do, which is kill protesters. In September, President Trump signed something called NSPM 7, which is a national security presidential memorandum that most Americans never heard of but probably should. Now, on paper, it was framed as a response to political violence, but in reality, NSPM 7 fundamentally reclassified how the federal government views unrest inside the United States. It told federal law enforcement to stop treating certain acts of protest or resistance as isolated crimes and instead view them as organized terror-linked campaigns, especially those associated with so-called anti-fascist movements. Now that's a big shift, because once you label something terrorism, everything downstream changes. Agencies like ICE are no longer just enforcing civil law, they're operating inside a counter-terror framework. So ICE is supposed to be a civil immigration agency. But under NSPM 7, threats against ICE were elevated to national security threats. Anti-ICE activism was treated not as dissent, but as potential extremism. That means agents are now trained to expect ambush, resistance, coordinated violence, even when none exists. And when officers expect terrorism, de-escalation stops being the priority. Confusion becomes threat. A sudden movement becomes a hostile act. So that's how routine enforcement turns into a fatal encounter, not because someone intended to kill, but because the margin for error collapses. And when ideology is treated as a threat multiplier, when protest equals extremism, when civil enforcement adopts a war footing, people die who were never supposed to die. And Renee Good could be the tragic example of just how dangerous it is to start labeling fellow Americans as terrorists.
And that's exactly what happened. And I would argue that you could use NSPM 7 as a violation of posse comitatus, because essentially what it did is, as Kim just highlighted here, it turned the people into an enemy of ICE, thereby essentially militarizing them, by viewing us as the enemy, right? And so you're unleashing a militarized force on the American public. And that violates posse comitatus, and that's treason. So, again, everything they're doing is lying to you. And they're using their justice system and their legalese to justify their crimes against the American people. And that's how they operate. And we're going to talk about that more in chapter 4. All right, so now let's look at one more article that was written about this, labeling dissent as terrorism. The new U.S. domestic terrorism priorities raise constitutional alarms. And this is from The Conversation by Melinda Haas, written on December 3rd, 2025. National Security Presidential Memorandum issued September 25th, 2025 is a presidential directive that for the first time appears to authorize preemptive law enforcement measures against Americans based not on whether they are planning to commit violence, but for their political or ideological beliefs alone. The seventh National Security Memorandum from the Trump White House pushes the limits of presidential authority by targeting individuals and groups as potential domestic terrorists based on their beliefs rather than their actions. And that's exactly what we saw in the propaganda that they're spewing on the media, on the news, in their press conferences, right? This memorandum represents a profound shift in U.S. counterterrorism policy, one that risks undermining foundational American commitments to free speech and association. The stated purpose of NSPM 7 is to counter domestic terrorism and organized political violence, focusing mainly on perceived threats from the political left. Because apparently, we don't have threats from the political right anymore. But as you'll see in a second here, we're going to cover essentially the same thing from 2009 and show you who was the enemy back then. The memorandum identifies anti-Christian, anti-capitalism, or anti-American views as potential indicators that a group or person will commit domestic terrorism. Right? So again, they're creating the narrative and the, I guess, justification for their goons to go and take people for their beliefs. Right? Okay, again, right now it's just the immigrants, but soon it's going to be, oh, if you resist us, you're breaking the law too. I mean, that's where this all is headed. The memorandum directs the Department of Justice to focus the resources of the FBI's approximately 200 Joint Terrorism Task Force on investigating acts of recruiting or radicalizing persons for the purpose of political violence, terrorism, or conspiracy against rights, and the violent deprivation of any citizen's rights. Right? And again, I argue that that's what your government's doing to you. They're the terrorists. They're in the conspiracy against your rights. Because what is NSPM 7 if not a conspiracy against your rights to free speech? Violent deprivation of any citizen's rights? I mean, look at what they're doing to protesters with their rubber bullets and their mace and their tear gas. Make it make sense, okay? It also allows the Attorney General to propose groups for designation as domestic terrorist organizations. Right? Again, it's exactly what they did in 2009 that we're going to show you in a second. That includes groups that engage in the following behaviors: organized doxing campaigns, swatting, rioting, looting, trespass, assault, destruction of property, threats of violence, and civil disorder. And again, I don't advocate for any of that. I don't advocate for violence. I don't advocate for vandalism or destruction of property because it all violates natural law. What I advocate for is unlocking your mind and understanding and realizing the true nature of our cage and learning the true power that we have. And all this is going to be covered in chapter 8, so you got to stick around. NSPM 7 marks a major conceptual shift in U.S. counterterrorism policy. Its focus on domestic terrorism significantly departs from historical approaches that primarily targeted foreign threats. Okay? But again, this has been going on since the 90s. It just shifts from left to right depending on who's in office. The First Amendment generally prevents the government from punishing people for unpopular opinions. It also protects the ability for people to associate, to advance public and private ideas in pursuit of political, economic, religious, or cultural goals. Okay? So what we're doing, we have the right to do. The directive's emphasis on ideological orientations, anti-Christianity, anti-capitalism, and anti-American views as indicators of domestic terrorism potentially jeopardizes First Amendment rights. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Although left-wing violence has risen in the past decade, empirical evidence proves that this violence remains at very low absolute levels, well below historical levels of right-wing or jihadist violence. In fact, most domestic terrorists in the U.S. are politically on the right, if you even want to call it domestic terrorism at all, because most of domestic terrorism in the United States is false flag, is patsies, is run by the intelligence community. But we'll get into that probably a little bit deeper in chapter 5. Because again, Hegelian dialectic, they have to create the problem to get an emotional public reaction so that they can implement their unpopular solution. That's how this works. And right-wing attacks account for the vast majority of fatalities from domestic terrorism. Yet NSPM 7 focuses disproportionately on left-wing ideologies. All right, now remember that, left-wing ideologies. In the next PDF I'm going to show you. NSPM 7 departs from prior U.S. counterterrorism frameworks by prioritizing the suppression of ideologically motivated dissent, even in the absence of concrete evidence of violent intent. So we're just going to stamp down on you, even though there's no proof that you're going to be violent at all. Right? Just opposing us or getting in our way is now considered violent and terroristic. And we've heard them say that over and over again. So that's NSPM 7. Now, let's go back to 2009, as I've been alluding to here, and take a look at what was issued during the Obama administration, unclassified for official use only. Right-wing extremism, current economic and political climate fueling resurgence in radicalization and recruitment. Doesn't that sound interesting? That's pretty much what we just heard from NSPM 7. But it was the left wing who was the enemy. Let's dig a little deeper here. This is prepared April 7th, 2009. Prepared by the Extremism and Radicalization Branch, Homeland Environment Threat Analysis Division, coordinated with the FBI. Let's see what this says. Key findings. Threats from white supremacist and violent anti-government groups during 2009 have been largely rhetorical and have not indicated plans to carry out violent acts. Okay, largely rhetorical, and there's no intent to carry out violent acts. That's exactly what NSPM 7 was saying, right? But now they're going to make that illegal. See how the slow creep of Fabian socialism works? Nevertheless, the consequences of a prolonged economic downturn, including real estate foreclosures, unemployment, and an inability to obtain credit, could create a fertile recruiting environment for right-wing extremists and even result in confrontations between such groups and government authorities similar to those in the past. So again, it's always the public, it's always the citizens that are the problem. It's not the problems that we, the government, have created to create these economic conditions, or the hierarchy above us creating these economic conditions. It's always we, the people, who are the problem. And we, the government, are going to impose our will on you to get you to comply with what we're telling you to do. This is called statism. And this is, again, the mind virus that infects most of the people in this country. And you've chosen your hive mind network to plug into, right or left. And you're going to view the other as the enemy. And back in 2009, it was the right wing that was the enemy. Just like right now under Trump, shockingly, it's the left wing who's the enemy, right? Do you see how this works, people? It's a game of chess, and you're just pawns on their chessboard. Time to wake up, break free of this system, dissolve it, and transition to a superior model, which is going to free us all from all of this BS that's coming out from the criminal organization called government. The current economic and political climate has some similarities to the 1990s, when right-wing extremism experienced a resurgence, fueled largely by an economic recession, criticism about outsourcing of jobs, and the perceived threat to U.S. power and sovereignty by other foreign powers. Do you see how they play this game and how the same Hegelian dialectic is played over and over and over again? I have a great documentary right over my shoulder here called Living on the Edge of a Bubble, Blowing the American Dream. And it goes all the way back to the tulip mania and showing every economic bubble in history and how they're all created by the bankers, by the governments, to create this economic collapse so that they can then come in and buy up all of the assets that we've created for pennies on the dollar and control them. And then we build it back up again, and then they collapse it again. It's always a bubble. We repeat this bubble cycle over and over again, and that's how they're stealing our wealth and gaining more and more wealth and power. And this cycle has to break. And so they're using the conditions that they create as justification for clamping down on we the people when we get pissed off that they're doing this to us. And again, this is a racket, and the government is a criminal organization, which we're going to get into in Chapter 6. Growth of these groups subsided in reaction to increased government scrutiny as a result of the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing. And we're going to talk about that in Chapter 5 now, which moved from Chapter 3 to Chapter 5 because Chapter 5 was more important to talk about first. And the reason they subsided was because of Oklahoma City bombing, because that was a desired outcome of that false flag event. I'll just leave it there for right now. Okay? That was another Hegelian dialectic. The possible passage of new restrictions on firearms and return of military veterans facing significant challenges. Well, because we sent you into a meat grinder called war, and you have PTSD, and you're now coming over here angry because what we told you was a lie? Facing significant challenges reintegrating into their communities could lead to potential emergence of terrorist groups or lone wolf extremists capable of carrying out violent attacks. Who created the problem? There was no reason to go into Afghanistan. There was no reason to go into Iraq. There was no reason to go into Iran. There was no reason to go into any of the countries that we've invaded over the last 75 years. Right-wing extremist chatter on the internet continues to focus on the economy, the perceived loss of U.S. jobs in the manufacturing and construction sectors, and home foreclosures. And again, it's history repeating. We're right back there again. We've got an administration telling us that the economy is stronger than it's ever been, but the reality on the ground is that everything's more expensive than it's ever been. Gen Z and Gen Alpha will never be able to own a home. What else? Jobs are being outsourced through H-1B visas, because it's cheaper for the corporations and more profit and more greed and more quarterly earnings. It's just the entire model is what's creating the problems. The entire system is what's creating the problems, but then they're turning around and blaming the victims like they did in Renee Good shooting as they're going to be a problem. They're going to react, so we're going to have to crack down on them. Do you see how disgusting this system is? We have to change it. And only we can change it, but we have to unite. And I'm going to show you exactly how we do that. That's enough of this. So again, I just wanted to show you this from 2009, just to show you how NSPM7, the left wing, are the enemies, and just compare and contrast to what they were doing in 2009. Oh, it's a right wing. In fact, let's just take a quick look here. Let's do a Control F, and let's do right wing. 50 exact matches. Right wing terrorism, right wing extremism, right wing whatever, right? Let's look at, was the left wing a problem at all back then? No results found. So when the left is in power, it's always right-wing extremism. And when the right wing is in power, it's always left-wing extremism. Isn't that funny how that works? Are you beginning to understand how we're being played and how the system operates, people? All right, that's enough of this. I don't even want to. It's getting too long. Let's move on. Okay, so Part 6 is done. Part 7, what's the Hegelian dialectic synthesis for this entire psyop? Okay? We've talked a lot about all of this stuff. We've talked about technocracy. We've talked about the reason Trump was put into power, how the mind of the masses is manipulated to accept the next push of the Overton window, right? So what's this all about? Why are they cracking down on immigration? Why is ICE doing what they're doing to all these poor migrants that are just here trying to earn a living? Because the United States has destroyed the economic engine in their country, right? What's the Hegelian dialectic synthesis of this entire psyop, which started probably in the mid to late 90s, definitely after 2001, with opening the doors to Muslims in this country, and the immigrant invasion, where they opened the doors on purpose, let them all in. Now they're the problem. We have to get rid of them, even though they're not a problem, because Cato Institute proved they're not a problem, that they're actually a net positive to our economy. What's the synthesis of this entire Hegelian dialectic? Well, let's go listen to Trump and see what he says about it.
The biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately. For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens.
There you go. That's what this is all about. The bio-digital convergence. The biometric ID. And of course, they're going to use it on immigrants first. And once they say, oh, look at how great it works on that, we need it for everybody. We need it for the left-wing violent extremists. We need to be able to track and trace everybody. This is the Orwellian nightmare police state being set up right before your very eyes. And Palantir is implicit in it. All these AI companies are implicit in it. That's what's being created right before your eyes. That's what all of this is about. And that's why Trump was put in. Because they knew that the right wing wouldn't resist it. When they were resisting it for all those years. And I've already explained that. This is why right here. Biometric entry-exit visa tracking system. And again, that's what the Real ID is all about. And they're going to eventually, slowly merge us into the monetary system, which everything you buy and sell will be completely controlled. We're going to talk about that in Chapter 8. So, again, this is them slowly chipping away at your freedoms under the veil of patriotism, under the veil of this is the new enemy. It's immigrants. It's whatever the enemy is. During World War I, World War II, whatever. It's communism. They're always going to create an enemy that we need to be at war against. That's why you need us. That's why you need the government. And it's all bullshit. Okay? It's all games. That's how they operate. It's all Hegelian dialectic. It's all psychological operation. It's all propaganda. All of it. Every last bit of it. To control you in your life. And I'm going to show you a model that breaks all of that. That shatters it all. That moves humanity into a world of complete freedom. That's why I'm writing this video book. That's why I'm showing you all of this stuff. That's why these chapters are long. Because you have to see it for yourself. How it works. This is it. What else, Donnie?
In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper tracking system.
There you go. Land, sea, air, it's going to be ubiquitous. The 24/7 digital panopticon. And he's saying it's about the immigrants, but again, everything will be turned on you. You know, just like I remember flying in the 90s, in the 80s and the 90s. And you would just go to the airport, park your car, or have someone drop you off, give the baggage guy a couple bucks for each bag, Go in, show your ticket, go to the gate, and wait for your flight. It was beautiful. Travel was wonderful. And after 9/11, one of the reasons that they did 9/11 was so that they could create this police state, so that they create this new system where now everybody is guilty until proven innocent. And that's what TSA is all about. And they're destroying travel on purpose because they don't want you to travel. I got another great clip that I'll play in a future chapter here showing you their true intent. They're only the wealthy are going to be able to travel like we know travel now. The peasants or the proletariat are going to travel through their headsets in virtual reality. That was just admitted at the World Economic Forum meeting in Davos this year. So again, this is what they think about you. This is the world they're taking us to. All right? They're going to take away all of our freedoms if we don't unite and walk away. Okay? I'm showing you because everybody needs to know. Everybody needs to wake up to the true reality of our world and not the one they believe it to be because they've fallen for the propaganda. Okay? So that's the synthesis of all of this. There you go. I forgot to show this earlier. CBDCs and digital IDs are meant to go together. Without digital IDs, the CBDC digital finance system cannot exist. So again, they start with the immigrants, the biometric ID. That's what it's being set up for. It's being set up to merge you into this digital monetary system that's 100% controlled. They're going to know everything you spend, everywhere you spend it. And if you don't abide by the rules or their laws or whatever they're going to impose on you, if you go over your carbon credits for the month, you're going to be cut off. You're not going to be able to buy or sell anymore. And that is the mark of the beast. Okay? They have to know who you are. And so they want to have your wallet tied to your digital ID and have that digital ID be mapped to your physical ID through the biometric data collection. And that's where all this ends. That's why Trump is implementing it. He is the Trojan horse to take us into the technocratic future. That's what I told you about in chapter 1. Okay? Now, let's go look at part 8, what happened to Johnathan Ross. And we've got one more video to show you. We're almost done with this chapter. I apologize that it's longer than I had anticipated, but again, everything that's said needs to be said to show people the true reality of the world that we're living in. But this is a great video I found from a lady who basically reported on what eyewitnesses were seeing immediately after the shooting. He didn't go to the hospital. The whole narrative about deep bruising and, oh, he's going to be okay, it's all a lie. He never even went to the hospital. I mean, for God, we saw in the video, he wasn't even hurt. He walked to the car, he walked back, he said, call 911. He wasn't limping or anything. It's just such BS. But anyway, let's watch the video.
So Johnathan Ross's neighbors apparently didn't think very highly of him either, because they were happy to tell what was actually happening at the time that Kristi Noem said that he was at the hospital getting medical attention for, his nothing that got hurt. When he was supposed to be at the hospital, what was actually happening was his wife was pacing in the driveway while Johnathan Ross, his undercover pals, and their undercover cars were packing in a hurry, loading these cars down, and fleeing the scene. So Johnathan Ross and his family are now living in hiding on the taxpayer dime after he murdered Renee Good in cold blood.
And that's exactly what happened. All these stories that were told, they're all lies. It's all gaslighting. He knew he was wrong. He knew he was wrong because of the updated training that he got from Customs and Border Patrol. He knew that you shouldn't get in front of a car, right? That's what he was trained before he left, because that came down in 2013. He was with them until 2015. So he had 2 years of the new training saying, look, don't get in front of cars, and you're not allowed to fire at them unless they're firing at you. But he acted on his initial training, which was to get in front of the car to create the justification, because he knew he had qualified immunity because of NSPM 7, because of everything that would happen in the past year. No one was getting in trouble. So he's like, I can do whatever I want. And if I do get in front of this car, they're going to defend me. They're going to say the car was weaponized and I had every right to shoot. And exactly what he thought, what he believed would happen, is exactly what happened. He's gotten away scot-free, and as of now, there are no charges against him, and he is living in hiding. We haven't even heard from him since January 7th, so he's probably in witness protection right now. And this lady is 100% right.
Watching you maggots twist yourself in pretzels to justify what happened is like, who are you? What country are we living in right now when you're watching injustice against Americans exercising their rights and you're cheering on their death? You're cheering on abuse of power. Who are you people? This is not America, and you are not Americans, and you most certainly are not patriots. The most damning piece of evidence that came out of this entire thing was the evidence released from Johnathan's own phone. They released that evidence in an effort to prove or exonerate him. What were his last words after he shot her? Fucking bitch. That is a man who has nothing but contempt for women. A man who hates when people challenge his power. He planned to shoot her long before he had his hand on his gun. Johnathan Ross is a grown man who couldn't control his emotions and knew that he would be able to get away with murdering her, and so he did. Johnathan Ross is 100% guilty, and MAGA can twist themselves in pretzels all they want. The video exists, the investigations will continue, and the public will demand justice, and this will not go away. America is pissed. There's nowhere Jonathan's going to be able to go that he won't be seen. When there is a change in power structure in this country, I want to be present to see the fear on the faces of these ICE agents, flashing back to all the horrible things they've done. You will all face accountability.
There you go. You know, I agree 100% with everything that she just said. And you know, not only the fact that he called her a fucking bitch, but the fact that his own video shows the moment that he decided that he was going to shoot that woman because of when he moved his phone. We all know it in our hearts that it was murder, that he did it intentionally, that he placed himself in front of her car on purpose so that he could shoot her. Period. Full stop. Your government is lying to you about everything. All right. So let's, we've got one more article here and then we're going to end this chapter. We've got one more quick article on here on, this is from April 9th, and this is the latest update I've gotten. Government's been ordered to turn over files on ICE agent who killed Renee Good. This is from The Intercept. Federal prosecutors in Minnesota are being forced to turn over critical information on the shooting of Renee Good by Immigration and Customs Enforcement Officer Johnathan Ross in relation to a separate case involving Ross, so the one that he got dragged on. Prosecutors have until May 1st to provide a slew of records, including Ross's personnel file, to a magistrate judge to review and determine which files should be released. All right, so it's, again, we're going to let the justice system decide what the public should be able to see. So they're going to redact things. It's ridiculous. Why just, Kristi Noem said they're totally transparent. Why not give us the whole truth? Why not give us the Epstein files completely unredacted? Why are you giving to us in little dribs and drabs, right? Kristi Noem said it's the most transparent administration in history. No, it's not. All these people do is lie to us. It's disgusting. All right, so this is talking about the guy that he jumped in the window, he smashed the window and the guy took off. He was dragged for 100 feet and he got 33 stitches. Of course, it's always 33. But anyway, so this guy, they're looking for more files on Ross's history that would exonerate this guy because it will clearly show a pattern of aggression from Johnathan Ross. So we'll see what happens with this. But his defense attorney praised the ruling as key to defending the rights of his clients, but also important for public understanding of what transpired in the shooting of Good. Well, we know what transpired because he was acting on his training, which the government used to defend his actions, and I used to indict his actions. On December 12th, a jury found Munoz, Guatemala, guilty of one count of assault on a federal officer. After Ross's killing Good was revealed, Newmark, Munoz, Guatemala's attorney, submitted a request for post-conviction discovery, arguing that the facts of the Good case could be grounds for a new trial or support a lesser sentence for his client. Which again, a guy was scared. He didn't feel like he was in the wrong. He had these masked goons trying to take him out of his car, And so he drove away. All right, and he was found guilty. Given the recklessness of Ross's decision to step in front of Good's vehicle, the violence he showed by continuing to shoot at a vehicle that was passing harmlessly by, and the extreme callousness he displayed after it, should have been clear that he either killed Good or injured her terribly. It would be reasonable to assume he presented a similar danger to defendant in June of 2025, which clearly he did. Because, again, just look at his history. He's an unhinged sociopath, as are most of the people who signed up to do this job. I mean, I've heard that there's been kind of a mass exodus from people who realize, like, hey, we're not the good guys here anymore. If prosecutors comply with the order, okay, comply with the order. So prosecutors, what? If they don't, like, or we're going to withhold this information from you? Where's the justice in this country? The materials will not immediately be made public, all right? The materials will go first to a magistrate judge who will determine the relevance to the defense team's case and perform any necessary redactions. Why does anything need to be redacted in the most transparent administration in American history? Why are you redacting anything, right? Again, it's just a stupid legal system, this positive law system that says we can do whatever we want to protect us from any embarrassment, right? Before handing it over to the defense, this judge is effectively doing the investigation that the United States has turned its back on, said Shauna Kiefer, a defense attorney in Minneapolis. I think because this order is so thoughtful and it's legally sound, that there's a strong chance that the government will dismiss this case if they're forced to go forward with complying with the order. So again, what she's saying here is that what this is going to do, it's going to force discovery in that original case, and it's going to show a pattern of violating people's rights. And so what they're hoping to do with the Munoz Guatemala case is that, hey, he was scared because the pattern of abuse shows that they were violating people's rights, and he just wanted to get away. He just wanted to get out of there and either dismiss his case and let him go free, because, again, the evidence shows that Johnathan Ross is an unhinged sociopath at the very least, and that it was premeditated murder based on the video evidence, based on his training evidence. All the evidence, all the empirical evidence shows that the official narrative is false and that Johnathan Ross murdered Renee Good. That's it. That's the end of the story right there. And that's going to end chapter 2. I think we've proven the case that this is how propaganda works. And if we want a world in which we're no longer lied to by a government, by corporations, and we can live in a world where we have informed consent and we have access to the truth and objective reality, that's what I'm going to show you in the rest of this book. But this is the world we live in right now. We're lied to about everything. The government operates as a criminal organization, and they get away with their crimes against humanity over and over and over every day. And it's time for we the people to unite and end this insanity in our world. No violence is required whatsoever. I'm going to show you a 100% peaceful plan of action to fully take our power back. All right? So that's it. Now you can follow me to chapter 3, which, again, I've changed from chapter 5 because this is so important to talk about right now. The restoration of critical thinking to destroy hive mind and groupthink mentality. Because we've just seen what the propaganda does to these hive mind networks, to the people, the dumb nodes connected to these hive mind networks. They just regurgitate them and think that they're right about everything because that's what they're programmed to believe. Right? This is the antidote to all of that. That's why I moved it from chapter 5 to chapter 3, because that's how important it is right now. So follow me over there. I love you all. Thanks so much for your time. And we'll see you over in chapter 3. Bye-bye.